Everybody in my office is a badass. In whatever role they're in, they have the potential to be a badass, or they already are.
Do it right or do it twice.
Polish it out like, out of glass and steel. And if you get the city called on you, bro, you're just in muck.
Scotty Morrison, what's up, buddy? How you doing?
I'm doing great today, man. Good to be here.
It is good. It's good to have you here.
Thank you.
So you're somewhat recently retired now, right?
Partially retired.
Partially
yes.
retired, but you're coming here to share your story of your come up and how you got to the point where you can plan, execute, and nail it on the head, and create the life you want to live moving forward.
I've listened to a lot of smart people. Yes, been guided.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Who's some of the smartest people you've listened to?
I would have to say the game changer was Jim Collins.
Yeah.
Through the EO network, got to meet him personally, talk about my business, and he basically, through my current business plan I had then, right in my face, and said, "How can you be the best in the world if you were doing too many things?"
Right.
And so I got rid of 30% of my business and grew 25% a year after that for 5 straight years.
So tell us what you do.
I'm a CPA, certified public accountant, and we specialize in construction and real estate. In fact, that's really the only things that we do.
Right. So at when you met Jim Collins, you were doing a little bit of everything?
I was doing more. I did doctor groups, dentists, high net worth people. It turned out that I just didn't like doing it because you couldn't create businesses that lasted. And I was kind of an architect of creating things that I wanted to be multi-generational.
Gotcha. And so you felt there was a niche in real estate or construction. You were advised it to tighten up your box. You hit that.
Tighten is a good word, yes.
Yeah.
Basically, he told me to get rid of all of that other stuff and
Yeah.
only do what I love, and that is construction and real estate.
Yeah.
That's it.
And from there, you got 25% growth for 5 years from
Oh,
there.
yeah.
Cool. All right. So now that we know a little bit about where you're at, we'll get into where you're at today. But you didn't start off obviously being a CPA. You have a story. You have a story along the way, I'm sure, right?
Oh well, everyone has a story.
Yeah. So tell me about. Was there any entrepreneurial like flashes of brilliance for you, or anything coming up as a young age that led you to believe that you might be an entrepreneur at some point, or was it math heavy and it turned into a business? Like how did you figure out who you are on a business standpoint?
Well, I'm going to separate my personal life from my business life because there's a little bit of a dichotomy going on there, 2 different paths for a little while.
Okay.
My dad left Motorola, started his own business. I worked there building car washing equipment with him, went on sales runs. He had every expectation I would own my own business at some point, maybe his. Unfortunately, he ended up with a bad partner that dragged him into court. He lost his business. We ended up destitute.
How old are you at this point?
Oh gosh, 13.
So you're 12 or 13 years old. Dad's a businessman. He's out doing deals, and all of a sudden, you're being groomed to be kind of the next guy coming up, and Dad loses everything.
Everything.
Yeah.
We stood in our yard and looked at the car we were going to live in. That's how bad it was.
Wow.
For whatever reason, the bank didn't foreclose that one day. They gave my mom 60 days to figure it out. It broke their marriage up, kind of wrecked our family at that point, but
Yeah.
had to move forward.
So how does that look? I mean, your dad's down and out. Mom's trying to hold it together. So is Dad, I'm sure.
Yeah.
You guys are looking at the car you're going to live in. It doesn't work out. Somehow both the parents get it put together, but now the family's fractured.
Yep. They separated very
Yep.
quickly, but my dad only lived about 3 blocks down the street in an apartment complex. But jumping between the 2 of them as they're still fighting and there's no money, ran out of health. My mom came down with cancer. She was terminal.
Mm-hmm.
The government agreed to step in, and if they could experiment on her, they would give us money to bury her.
Wow.
So at 15, I lost my mom. She ended up being the only one to ever survive at the Houston Medical Center and came back.
So at 15, you lost your mom. What do you mean by that?
I mean, I lost my mom for 2 years as they were experimenting on her.
Right.
And she, for some reason, with radiation therapy, she survived.
So they come out with some drug that's going to cure her illness, and they say, hey, you're probably not going to make it, but if you don't make it, we're going to cover your expenses and leave some for the family. And she took that jump.
Well, they came to us and we were dirt poor. They said, well, we'll give you money to bury her. give her a proper funeral, good Catholics, that kind of thing. And we all agreed that it was the best scenario, and they said that there's zero chance she'll survive.
Wow.
But if they could find something that could work going forward, she'd be part of something greater.
Right.
So a little bit altruistic. It was my mom's choice ultimately. She had to give up the rest of us, and she decided to fight it out. And with radiation treatment, even though she lost her leg from it, ultimately, it did save her life.
Yeah, and Mom's still here.
She's still here today.
Yeah.
I still take care of her.
And you're
yeah.
not 15.
No. I still love my mom.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
So that must be pretty heavy for a 13, 14, 15-year-old boy to be hearing these conversations, watching your mom go through this. Dad's now not in the house. How's that affecting you?
Well, the first thing that I learned at a young age, is the terror of not being in control of your circumstances. I knew at some point the only way to control my environment is I had to be a business owner. I had to control it. I had my dad had friends who were engineers. I watched them be terrified every 5 years when Motorola went through a downsize. They'd lose their jobs. They have no idea what to do. And I went, that's not the life I want to lead. So
you identified that early on, that's not a path you want to pursue.
I had to be in control of making sure I always had the ability to make money and take care of my family. Yeah.
So these early moments define you in the sense that, hey, I'm not going to rely on clocking in and out. I got to go create my own destiny, create my own wealth, and figure out a plan that doesn't rely on somebody else telling me if I have a job or not.
Yeah.
So,
It really set the bar low on expectations, meaning anything above a certain minimum expectation is a gift. So I didn't have to have things. It'd be nice to have some things.
right.
There's some minimum needs and wants. My wants went way down because my needs were just barely being met.
Yeah. So are you, mom's sick, dad's out, you're 15, 16 years old. Are you finding work, or where are you at in this point in time? Like what's
Oh yeah, this time I'm working as a busboy. I'm mowing lawns. I'm doing things to make money because there was no money at all. A friend of mine who was Mormon, he and I would get together and we'd get cars from junkyards, make them run, and sell them for a couple $100 of profit. So he's financed his mission. I was financing date money and whatever I needed to live on.
Yeah. So just so I can wrap my head around it, what year are these cars you're fixing up?
Oh, jeez. Let me put it this way. Cars that I was fixing up are the ones that you see in auctions that go for a heck of a lot of money today, and it just makes me sick that I didn't keep them.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you obviously got the bug. You're out in college and doing what?
Well, at 18, I blew a lung out working at a car wash. Ended up being sick for 2.5 years, dropped to about 120 pounds.
How do you blow a lung out at 18?
I'm tall and thin. I was throwing a big giant steel garbage can into a dumpster, and it just tore my lung out. Lung collapsed around my heart, almost killed me. Again, every day is a gift. Took a long time to come through that, really kind of figured out who my friends were and who were those that were just there to be part of a party.
Yeah.
So I got with those people that cared about each other, and I concentrated on those very few that made my life better. And then had to work through school. My first semester at MCC, because I had to pay my way.
So you're a local boy.
I'm a local boy.
Yep.
Almost born and raised here, but been here except for the first 2.5 years of my life, yes.
Gotcha.
Went to MCC, paid my way through there, handicapped student, and I ended up taking an accounting class and said, wow, this looks fun. I mean, I like the math. My dad was an engineer. I'm used to mathematical complexity. I actually like it. And then I had a CPA that just said, look, Scott, you're going to change people's lives doing this. I'm like, how am I going to change people's lives doing financials and tax returns?
Yeah.
And he laid it on the line. He just said, there's almost no other profession where people share everything with you than this. They need you to know about how healthy they are, where all their money is, what their kids are like, if they have other issues they have to deal with, either mental health or substance abuse, you name it. They have to share it with their CPA because that's the person who helps try to take care of their money side of the equation.
Right.
So I embarked on that and did work for somebody coming out of college. Spent 7 years there to really kind of learn the trade, had some very good mentoring from one or two people, and left to become an owner of a CPA firm with two great partners. That was the number one thing, is I had to have honest partners with high integrity, and I got that.
Yeah. So early on, you find out you have to work. You got to take care of yourself, and then you go through some struggles, and you find out that the people who really care about and love you are the ones you want to surround yourself with.
Yeah.
And you're often running this business, and only because I know you and I know you're you as a human, like you care so much about people and your employees. Do you think that formed you? Do you think that time of getting injured was a blessing for you, or have you always kind of been like this somebody else first? Like you always put everybody else first, it seems like.
Well, I'm a person of faith, so I do believe that faith comes through me, and I have to exercise what faith means and how you take care of people. So to me, I've always built that way. We were very strong. I had a very strong religious growing up. I had Bible study at 5 a.m. on Saturdays in high school, that type of thing. And really, it wasn't necessarily the study of just the literal meaning of the Bible. It's what the Bible is as a guide to take your life forward.
Right.
And that's pretty much been a baseline for me. My dad always said, if you can't stand up in church and say it, don't do it. So my ethical considerations were set.
That's awesome. I've never heard that before, and I can never go to church. That's great. Well, cool, man. So you're now off and running. You're a partner in this business. What are some of the early successes you've had?
Well, I would have to say that the one thing that I really liked doing, and this was taught to me by my father, who was a Dale Carnegie instructor, and that is work with good people. Good people refer good people to you. And if you're good too, they're going to refer other people, and then you're going to refer people to them because they're good people.
Right.
So I created a good people network, and that became our, it's overused sometimes, but the culture of our firm is to take care of people. We happen to be CPAs. So that really was the baseline moving forward, and my dad taught that to me.
Yeah. So you got CPA, you got sales instructor by your side, right? You're good with people, so you're off and running. What's your main role? I mean, are you out generating business for this company, or are you just processing tax returns?
My two main roles are I'm a rainmaker, so I do talk to a lot of people, and I figure out what is their pain point, what do they need to have solved, and then the other part is what can I learn to be creative to help solve problems as I see them currently or based on my depth of experience.
That's Scott today, but was that Scott early on too? Has it always been the same type of grind, or did you have one particular role? If you have partners, did you have something that was your role, or is everybody just kind of getting their own, going out generating, doing the deals?
Well, I guess that's what probably was a difference with me, is that having a Dale Carnegie instructor father who was constantly having me go. I was born a very shy person, but I took Dale Carnegie 7 times to try to develop the confidence it takes to speak in front of people.
Right.
I'm still nervous. It still is a little heart-wrenching, as they say, gut-wrenching. But coming out of college and going into public accounting, I got very comfortable talking to people as peers.
Yeah. So I mean, I just don't imagine there's too many guys in your shoes that can go out and generate. Like it seems like there's 2 different types of brains, right? You're either a sales guy or you're a numbers guy, right? Are you an anomaly in that business?
I am a strategic numbers guy.
Yeah.
So I like complexity, putting companies together to create solutions, etc. But do I like to do the grind of just a financial statement or just prepping a tax return? Actually, no, I don't.
Yeah.
But I had to learn all that. Those are skill sets you can't get away from. It's any business.
Yeah. So as you're involved in this company, there's opportunities come to your door, right? Like different types of business opportunities to get into. Tell me about that.
It depends on the opportunity. If somebody is referred to us,
But you have a good opportunity. You have a good story that I'm trying to get you to talk about. That I think was a staple of my youth here in the Valley.
Oh, you're going to have to leave me a little closer.
Scotty, how old are you?
I'm 61 now.
Tell me about Zia. How did Zia come together?
Oh, Zia Records, yeah.
I mean, Zia Records. So Zia Records was the spot to be. Like when I came to college in Tempe, Arizona. Like if you wanted anything cool, if you wanted to listen to music you couldn't find anywhere else, or you wanted the cool swag, you went to one of the Zia Records, and you had a part of one keeping that company alive and creating what it is today, right?
Yes.
Tell me about that. How does this work?
Well, buy sell trade is basically a pawn store of music.
Right.
And I shopped there when they first opened. I'd put the records in my bike, and I'd bike down to ASU, and I would trade and sell and do everything just what you would do today.
Right.
Fast forward quite a bit of time, and one of the people who was working on it, Zia Records, when the original owner passed away.
So they were a client. They were a client of your firm.
No, they were not a client because we don't do those. We don't do retail.
Okay.
But we had a friend of ours, another CPA, who was working with the court system, and when the original owner suddenly passed away, he left it to his children. His ex-wife came back, and unfortunately that dichotomy there was not working well with the managers, and the company was starting to collapse. They weren't signing leases, people weren't coming in. It was in close need of, well, it was probably going to head into bankruptcy.
Right. How big is the company at the time? Either in whatever you're comfortable sharing, either stores or dollar revenue. Like, how, is it a big profitable company? Is it where's it at? Just health wise, without.
Oh, we had 7 stores. We dropped to 6 because we lost one right away. We bought it at basically almost a liquidation, but at least the kids got money. And we spent 3.5, 4 years spending all of our time, myself and my partners, working on it to recreate inventory systems, to build in infrastructure, to teach people how to run a business as a business.
Right.
Because the original owner didn't do it. He did it as a passion.
Sure.
But passions don't survive. Business procedures and policies do. And we started to find the right people who really love it, are still with us today, thank God.
Yeah.
Amazing people that have now taken it farther than we ever did. So now we're 9 stores in 2 different states. We went from an average store size of about 3,500 square feet. Our average store size, I think, is 11,500 square feet nowadays. We have stages built in, bands drop by, signings. Is it fun? Heck yeah, it's fun, because I've been in music all my life.
And that's the thing. That's the funny part about what you just said, because like I wonder if, like you just said, hey, the whole passion thing and building systems and process, but you are passionate about music. Like you love music.
Love it.
So when this came across your desk, was there something in you that said, oh, I want to be involved with it because of the type of business it is and it's different than what I'm doing? Or was it just enough of the economics there that it made sense for you and it fit into what you were doing? Or is it kind of like get your eye off the ball on something new?
When the opportunity came up and he called us and said, hey, Zia's going to go bankrupt. These kids are going to get nothing. We sat down, the 3 of us partners at my CPA firm, and we actually reached out to other family members, put together a little group and bought it.
Right.
Because we felt we needed to resuscitate this thing. We didn't want to see it go away. We just didn't. All of us are music lovers.
Right.
So it wasn't just the economics. There was a real passion there to help bring it back.
Yeah.
We worked very hard at it, and most of the credit goes to one of my other partners. He took the heavy lifting and did a lot.
Yeah.
So it was a passion project, but also something we believed in the long run, a long play, we could bring it back. And it, with the right people at the helm, it did and has done very, very well. We've now become a place where you don't just filter through, you actually can make a career there, get married, raise kids, which is what that first gen did for us when they stayed. And we're very, very proud of them.
Yeah. And you're still running it. I mean, I know you got a small piece, but that thing is still rocking and rolling from you guys resuscitating.
Great people running a great environment. They adapted to the COVID-19 shutdown by doing drive-ups, and a lot of it went online. It pivoted very hard.
Sure.
All retail had to pivot hard,
Right.
and the people at Zia got together and did a great job at it.
Well, that's cool. So were you involved in any of those decision making, or is that outside your scope?
No, we delegate one of the partners to be the major person that makes those decisions. Now, he sits in a group of people that run all the stores. They come up with the best ideas. He just filters it.
Right.
So we have great people, like I said, again, making great decisions.
Yeah, and every store you guys run has its own crew, right? And they kind of get to decide what they're going to carry, what bands are going to come in, what music they're buying.
Yeah, death metal in Tucson. We got Tex-Mex at some of it. So we sell a lot of country and western, which most people don't know, and we sell a tremendous amount of jazz.
Interesting.
All the stores sell this. So most people think of us as just rock and roll, but you can buy a lot of different music, and now we sell shirts and use stereo equipment, and they pivoted as hard as they can. And believe it or not, stuff that we all got rid of eventually when we first took it over, like cassette tapes,
right.
Records.
It's all coming back.
All of it's come back. Here I am buying back the records I used to have to go with the turntable I never got rid of.
Yeah.
So it's a very cool cycle to see.
That is awesome. So you guys are now, you and your partners have this side business running. Mm-hmm. You have your accounting firm running, and then along the way, are you still with these same guys, still with these same partners?
Well, I still have those same 2 partners at my original accounting firm that I got together with.
Right.
Yes, they're the partners in Zia.
Right.
But I started another firm because I wanted to grow another one again. These 2 guys are great. They wanted a much smaller firm than I wanted to build. I wanted to build a self-sustaining, financially consistent firm that would bring in, offer opportunity to people to become a place to stay. Mm-hmm. And that required us to grow. And so I started a small firm, broke away from them. It was all amicable. We just sat down, had lunch, and said, let's just do this. So, like I said, honest people, great people. We just broke apart, and then we just changed the name so people would know where we were at.
Right.
And then I started to grow and started to get involved with different organizations and training. EO happened to be one of those amazing events that was life-changing.
Right. So you hit a threshold, you get into EO. At what point, how deep in this new entity are you now circling back into just the real estate and just construction?
Oh, when we first started, it was about 70% construction. I mean, that's what I was known for. I love working with contractors. They have very unique needs. It's very complicated. To be blunt, most people in my industry don't do it as well as we think we can.
Right.
So we tried to specialize and try to be the one everybody talks about. So we tried to teach the banks why we make a difference to contractors. Teach the sureties and bond agents why we're trying to help them become better companies. I've been through a couple of downturns already, 86, 91, 2001, now 2007, etc.
Yeah.
The one thing that remains consistent are great companies that protect themselves before a downturn always survive. The ones that don't are the ones that die. And they'll die in good times too.
Yeah. Are we coming into a downturn?
I believe we're coming into another correction period.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean it this way. People that run profitable business, that squander all of their profits, they don't reinvest, they don't find the right people, they don't do all the great things by documenting their systems of why they make a difference and why they're so good at what they do. They're just a money machine until the money starts to slow down and then they die.
Right.
You'll see a lot of people go bankrupt simply because they're just not good businesses to begin with. I'm a CPA, I see it.
Yeah. So what do you, I mean, obviously we have 40 million people unemployed now. I'm sure some will bounce back, some won't. How long is this going to last? How far out is your prediction on what we're going to experience?
I'm not as pessimistic as some that think it's going to take a decade to recover. I just don't believe that that's where we're at.
Mm-hmm.
Most of my contracting companies are doing well. In fact, they're doing very, very well. A lot of backlog, which means they have signed contracts
Sure.
yet to do. I think there's still going to be some pivoting. I think some competition will go out of business no matter what. So you're going to be here today with fewer people to bid against or take the work that's going to come up. It's not going to be as long as we believe. There are some industries that are going to be impaired for quite some time.
Yeah.
Until we have a cure or a vaccine or something, especially with any environment that requires a lot of social interaction.
Gotcha. Interesting. So, you're, and I appreciate you sharing that as well, just for me trying to wrap my head around where we're going with this thing. So you're off and running. You're doing the construction stuff, and one of my favorite stories about you. And I'm tippy-toeing around a lot of things because you and I are informed together, which a lot of things remain confidential. And here we are talking to Lex, our camera guy, and the 4 followers we have. So I got to be careful not exposing anything. But one of my favorite stories about you is that you there was a period of time where you wrote down goals for yourself. I know you're very goal-oriented, but you wrote down exactly what you were looking to accomplish and a time frame to get there. And like to the day you hit it, right? Like it was like 7 years.
Virtually.
Yeah,
virtually.
I mean, to me, like not having the not understanding numbers or being in that realm, like when I saw you map something out, like, and it wasn't like 30 days or 60 days, it was like 7 years, right?
Well, my plan right now has been in existence for 16 years, I think.
So 16 years ago,
Yeah.
you said, I need X, Y, and Z to happen,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to step out of the company and figure out my next steps. And almost to the day you hit that.
Yeah, actually, yes.
Yeah. So how is that part of the secret sauce that you have with your clients, is that you can forecast out that, or is that just you and as an anomaly who's able to stay so consistent and do the things that need to be done? Like, how do you accomplish that?
Well, first thing is read good books. Listen to very smart people that say without a plan, you don't have a plan.
Right.
So we sat down with a business coach, which is one thing EO recommended, is always get a coach for something that you don't know as well as others.
Right.
And the coach sat Julie and my wife and I down, because we were starting this new firm by ourselves, and said, what do you want to do? We just created this, we wanted a culture that people wanted to come to in the morning, and they were happy to be there. That was it. That was our whole mantra.
Mm-hmm.
But we wanted to be a CPA firm doing it. And then we just kind of branched off from that. And once we started to get that moving, then we added the financial goals. What do we really want to have? What do we need? Well, my wife and I both experienced loss. And we just know that there's minimums. There can always be, there's no maximum. You can
Right.
make as much as you want. But we would never decide that our life is only defined by how much money we had. We wanted to be there for our grandchildren, our children and our grandchildren. We wanted to be there for our family. We knew our parents at some point would become elderly. We mapped out the things that we wanted to be happy doing. And that required some money. How much money? So we hired a fiduciary. The fiduciary started to map out all these things and said, here are the buckets you had to create.
So fiduciary, if a fiduciary takes a look at what your goals are going to be, says, hey, this is what you need to get there, and they have a little different pay structure than maybe a financial advisor, right?
The terminology is a little bit different, but a broker is looking out for their best interest, and a fiduciary has to, by law, look out for your best interest first.
Okay.
So I saw on tax returns, to be blunt, what brokerages would do or brokers would do, and it was not in my client's best interest.
Mm-hmm.
So I looked for something different and found out about fiduciaries way back in the day. Did a lot of research and eventually said, hey, these are the people that have to take care of you. Let's go to them instead. And then I recommended my clients do that.
What's some of the safeguards in place to make sure they're protecting you and not themselves? Like what's the difference in the two?
Oh, well, a fiduciary cannot take a fee or commission or anything because they can't get any kickbacks. They can't churn your stocks to make fees for themselves, buying and
Right.
selling.
Hey, you should buy this, sell this, buy this, sell this.
Oh,
take
we
fee,
did that
fee,
route.
right?
And you know how much that route worked for us? 5%. It was ridiculous to run and be part of the chaos that always is the stock market.
Yeah.
Then we get with a fiduciary and they said, yeah, well, there's 12 primary sectors. We'll buy into all these no-load mutual funds. You'll represent 300 to 500 companies inside each of those sectors, all averaging this. You'll average out to about 6.5% to 7% over time, which is what the market produces.
Right.
And once we started to do that religiously and continue to fund that religiously, that's what just elevated us.
Got you. So you're in quote unquote safer bets in the stock market, something that's got a little more less volatility. How about that? Than
Well, some have higher risks because of the pool that they're in, but
Right.
but they're counter.
But you're in a pool of 100 companies or 150 companies.
There's a risk assessment. That's
Right.
the key phrase that everyone uses: risk assessment. And as I was younger, we had a different mix than myself and my wife in our early 60s.
Right.
So we kept moving it to be less risky the older we got, and we never lost our principal, ever. So more principal, more growth.
Right. And so maybe when you're younger, you're getting 10 or 11s, and then as you age up, you're, hey, 6 or 7s make sense because we know we have our nest egg in place,
Yeah.
and we know to get to this point in time, we only need this much more, and at 6%, it'll get us there.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yes. Over time.
Yeah. And so 16 years of that, you were able to get to a spot where you're comfortably retired, and yet now we're constantly talking to each other about what are you going to do next, right? Like how are you going to create something new for yourself? But is that an exciting place for you to be?
It is actually, now what's coming to fruition is all the personal stuff. I know at some point I'm going to be a grandfather. I'm looking forward to that, just like everyone does.
Yeah.
I'm hoping in the near future to see my son married. My daughter's now married. Wonderful husband. The personal aspects now of not worrying about the money make it so that we can have a much better life without any stress.
Yeah. So I want to get into a couple of things that you and I were talking about, real estate related and maybe even construction related, on how to put more money in the entrepreneur's pocket or the proprietor's pocket that in essence they can turn and leverage back into savings so they can grow. So what are some of the some of the takeaways or quick tips that we can pass along to the audience that, like, if they're in real estate or they're in construction, what's some of the creative stuff they can do to put more money in their pocket and set a plan and be able to execute it and be in your shoes where you set a goal 16 years down the road, you hit it, and you get to make the rest of your life be whatever you want it to be. What do you got for me?
Well, let's talk about real estate.
Okay.
Contracting is building buildings,
Yep.
right? But not necessarily owning them. Sometimes they do, which is why we're on both sides of the equation. Sometimes we have our developers hiring our contractors to build the buildings they're going to have or flip or do whatever they're going to do. But just talk about real estate itself. Probably the number one place that the tax law gives you the greatest advantage to build wealth is real estate. It just is. There's so many laws that give you the ability to keep your wealth and continue to reinvest it the right way. You can leverage a little bit, leverage some.
Sure.
If you don't get crazy, you're always going to constantly moving things. For one of the things that we know of, growing up here in Tempe, a lot of it was farmland when I grew up there. And these farmers would sell their land, somebody would buy it, then they would sell a piece of it. They do what's called a 1031 exchange, and they roll the gain into the next piece, up to 3 pieces. So they took 1 piece, now they own 3, now they own 9, now they own 27.
Right.
So they're stratifying their investments by just deferring the gain on sale, which is unlike any other industry.
Yeah, so 1031 exchange is you buy a property for X, you sell it for Y, you have the money you made, the spread, and instead of taking it in as income at that point, you're leaving it in exchange, finding a property and buying something like or similar, reinvesting it and kicking the tax consequence down the road. Is that a fair?
Yes, because now that you bought it for 200, you sold it for 300, you buy something for 300, your cost basis is only 200 in
Right.
it. So now that gain, you don't pay tax and then have to reinvest it after tax.
Right, so you don't get the 100 grand, pay your 20 or 40 grand,
Yeah.
and now you got 60 or 80. No, you got the full 100 as long as you
Full
can identify
100.
the property and hit it in, and now you can keep running that money.
And you can
that's-
do a reverse Starker trust, which is you identify a property, you buy it, then you sell your property, and as long as you have an exchange facilitator, they can hold your money and then pay for the property you did buy.
What did you call that?
A reverse Starker trust.
Reverse Starker trust. That's actually the only 1031 exchange I've ever done is a reverse Starker trust.
They work.
And I didn't know it was called that. That's awesome.
So that's one of the attributes, is deferring the gain. Again, where else in the tax code can I do that? You sell a stock, got to pay tax on it. So you make $100, you got $60 left over, reinvest it. I mean, it slows down your accumulated wealth so quickly in such a short amount of time that real estate is a good play for part of your portfolio.
Right.
If you're savvy about it, it could be a huge chunk of your portfolio. And so that's one of them. Another is a cost segregation study, which now the IRS and Congress allows you to do, and that is Steve Wynn was building his hotel, and a cost segregation specialist went in and said, "Hey, I can help you with your building." He said, "Show me." So
We're talking about the Vegas Wynn Hotel.
yes, the original one.
Okay.
He saved so much money on that first build in taxes that he could build the sister Wynn for his wife.
What do you mean the sister Wynn?
Well, he built another Wynn casino,
Yeah.
which is really his wife's casino.
Really? That's a real story.
Yes, a real story. Let me give you a quick example. There was a dealership, and this is a true story, and I know from the cost seg person that did it. They were building a dealership. They wanted to have it really swank, so they ordered these $50,000 a piece German chandeliers. They called a cost seg study and they said, "We want to make sure that this has the best tax advantage for us. What can you think of?" He goes, "Well, put these cheap lights around the outside, and those are your primary lights. So those are attached to the real property. They have a 39-year life. But guess what? Those chandeliers, that's personal property. That's not permanently attached, so therefore it has a 5-year life or a 179 you can write off in the year 1. So he basically took a $150,000 tax deduction for his chandeliers.
So he bought 3 lights for 150 G's, and instead of having them attached to the building and depreciating it over
39 years.
a long period of time, they take that initial 150 off the top of their tax. So if they
They could deduct it right off their income that comes in from
so if
that
they made $1
property.
million that year, they can take the 150 off for the lights, and now they're paying taxes on 850.
Yeah, I mean, think about that. And then you could break down conduit, you can break down portions of it, you can break down certain walls, movable walls, landscaping, etc. So whenever you go to a commercial property, you should always look at the cost segregation of it. Rental real estate is the same way. If you want to cash flow quicker, take more of the tax deductions up front. Oh, by the way, the first question I always get is, "Oh, but that's going to reduce my basis and I'll have a bigger gain." You're going to flip it. You're going to use a 1031 exchange
Right.
and create more and more wealth flipping faster and faster forward.
So you're
Combining these two together is an extraordinary event in real estate.
yeah. So you're saying you buy a property up. Let's say you buy a multifamily, 4 units, 400 units, whatever.
Mhm.
You buy the property. You fix it up, you have a cost segregation study, you're able to write down, you're able to take off the top a portion of your improvements,
Right.
which also now increases your basis though as well. Is that what you're saying?
Well, what happens is because they are instant write-offs, like depreciation.
Right.
If you paid $1 million for it,
Sure.
and you could cost seg a quarter of it, which is not unheard of, you get a $250,000 write-off against your taxes right then and there, but your basis is $750. Not $1 million minus the 1/40th of it that you would normally deduct.
Right.
So now that tax savings could be rolled into your next investment.
Right. So assuming you take that initial tax benefit up front, assuming that you got it rented out, you're doing your deal, and then you want to go from 4 units to 400 or 400 to 4,000, you roll that into a 1031 exchange, you push it into the next building, and now
Right.
and now you do it again. any improvements, you're able to take the cost seg study, take that money off the top.
Sometimes, if you're paying extra for new improvements, yes. If you're just rolling it into the initial building, no, because it retains the same basis as the old building.
Right.
So if it's worth $750 and you immediately sold it, you'd have $750 basis. But let's say you put another $500,000 into it, cost seg that. Why? Because most of that can be allocated to a fast write-off.
Right.
That's why you continually do it hand in hand.
Interesting. Well, I appreciate that.
Sure.
Yeah. Next time, next time we get after some real estate, I'm gonna have to call you and figure out who's going to do my cost seg study.
There are good people out there, and it's very reasonable.
Yeah.
Very, very reasonable. It used to be very tightly controlled. Justin Jensen, who's a CPA on staff with us, he is the real estate partner. He used to be part of our $2 billion a year REIT. He did cost segregations for Price Waterhouse. The benefits are just extraordinary. He gets calls from people from all over the country now, just talking about what are the benefits. He doesn't do them anymore because it can be done by engineers less expensively, and then you get all this tax benefit. You always do a quick assessment. If you can save more than it costs you, you're going to do it.
For sure.
Why not? It's free money.
So now you're almost a completely free man from the office space, right?
I'm at 80% this year, yes.
Yeah, and we'll keep talking you out of that. And only retired guy I know that goes to work 80% of the time. What's next for you? Where do you see yourself going?
Well, the plan with my partners is because I love a portion of what I do, I just don't really care at my age to do all the administrative work. And these are young people, they're younger than me, and they're going to become the next great generation of our business as it continues for the next 4 decades like it has in the past. I'll step down to 60% and then go to 40%. Well, 40% of a week is only 2 days. But those 2 days are going to be filled with meeting with all the people I love to be with that I've taken care of for a long time, or stimulate me creatively to do some cool things for them.
Right.
That's what energizes me. I'm not going to go work at Bash's and be a bag boy or work at the airport. I mean, that doesn't appeal to me when I can do this very specific thing that really makes it mentally and a mental challenge.
Right.
I would love to continue.
Will you be more, so you'll take on more of a consultant type role? Maybe you'll find a business that is like, oh, there's a spot for me to come in, help you get your books all cleaned up, help you get a little more forward thinking, help you get a little healthier, and do something more in that capacity?
Well, if they hire me because they need to have certain work done, hey Scott, we want to create 2 different companies and segregate our risk but get some tax advantages. Okay, let's look at what you got. Oh, you need bookkeeping help. Well, here are some people that can do that. The firm has a bookkeeper on staff or externally. So we get everything cleaned up and fixed up to create a great business. We have this thing called a business like legacy wheel at our office, and this was created by an EO member, somebody who was in my forum, because she experienced it and said, this is really what you do. And I go, yeah. And she goes, yeah, it's nowhere on your website. So, yeah, I'm an accountant.
Yeah.
So we did this, and it really says, fix your business, which will create wealth for you personally, and then you got to create a legacy that you save it, save a part of it, keep your business healthy. Keep working on those 3 things all the time with a plan, and you're going to survive and thrive.
So tell me those 3 things one more time.
Business, life, legacy.
So we know your business. We know your life. What's the legacy going to be for Scott Morrison?
Well, the legacy we created, my wife and I.
What's the legacy for you?
For me, I don't have aspirations for much of anything. I just want to know that I made a difference. That's it.
Yeah.
And I want to be a good grandfather. I want to be a good dad. I spent a lot of time with my kids. They come over and they invite us out all the time. So I think we're doing something right.
Yeah, you're a cool dad if you're still getting invited out.
It's lovely.
Yeah.
But that really is it. I mean, I just want to know I made a difference and had a positive impact on people.
Yeah. Well, Scott, I appreciate you coming down, buddy. It's been a great time talking to you, getting to know you a little bit deeper. Thanks so much for showing up.
Thank you, Andy.
And I'll see you soon.
Oh, yeah.
All right, buddy.